Moduls Rīga piedāvā.
I've done Pinocchio a long time ago, when I was still early on in my career. It was the first job where I was a co-director, and that was for the Lyric Hammersmith, and we had a puppet who was basically, you know, sometimes played by an actor and sometimes played by and I don't know. Since then, I thought, okay, what about if playing Pinocchio but the other way around, so that basically Pinocchio is the only real person and the rest are puppets, and then obviously the best place to do that kind of a performance is at the puppet theater. So that's and I you know, I sort of said that before too. I like coming of age stories. I like stories where you know, where basically we learn that if we you know, if we want to have a good life, a little bit more with regards to ourselves and how we feel, we have to be less selfish. And Pinocchio's story is about that. He's learning, you know, his transference, or his journey is going from being you know, a selfish boy puppet into a more serving puppet. And I think you know, for a lot of us in life, that's quite a tricky journey, you know, to become you know, to move from being selfish into you know, serving. And I find that interesting, and I like how that's done through that story, through Kalori's story. To be selfish, you know, is very much something that is kids can't do anything about that. You know, when a baby is hungry, it will cry for food, and as adults, we don't do that anymore. We know we might still want it, but we have found different ways in being less selfish. So I think there's definitely, you know, a growth between, you know, like the human being who you know, the child who cannot be but selfish, to the adult who has a choice, to the adult who has a choice to be selfish or not to be selfish. Child is that's the only tool it has when it's just born, you know, to let the world know that there is something amiss, as by crying and by letting the world know I want something. At that moment in time, a child won't be thinking about, oh, I need to share my mother's milk with my brothers or whatever. It won't think that. It will only sort of go like, I'm hungry. And I think as adults, we have different ways of dealing with situations, and we've definitely grown. We've definitely grown as we're different. You know, physically we're different. There's definitely, you know, there's a process that happens when we are in puberty that. Yeah, that has nothing to do with being how we treat children, but it's just something which is, you know, is a physiological change that happens, you know, and that's we can't do anything about that. I think it's the nature of the beast. As a child, I don't think you recognize yourself. You can't yet. You need the mirrors of the world in order to help you. In order to help you see and to recognize who you are and all these kind of things. And I think then these self-help books sort of say that you do not have to become the mirror of somebody else. You know, you can be yourself. You can, but I think this story is about, you know, do I want to live in a world where I just am thinking about myself, or do I want to be in a world where basically I create a space for other people? There's a question of being dependent upon somebody or being interdependent. And I think that's the difference between, you know, these self-help books. And I think that, you know, of course it's important to be your own person, but you can only be your own person in relation to other people. I think it's good to be kind to myself, but I don't always manage. You know, I don't always manage to sort of get up and say, oh, it's okay. You know, it doesn't really matter that I got up a little bit late. I will catch up with myself. And instead I go like, oh God, how come that I've done that yet again? And I beat myself up for you know, I think it's an ongoing thing. I think it would be great to sort of think that I get some information and then I know how to behave. I think I get some information, I do that for a bit, I forget about that information, and then I have to hear it again. You know, I think it's an ongoing thing. It would be, yeah, like I sort of say, it would be great to sort of think I learned something and then I know it for the rest of my life. But the problem, I think, in general is I learned something, I forget it, I have to I have to do it again. I don't, you know, maybe some people are better than others, but I definitely I have to learn the hard way. I have to. I go in one direction and it seems to be the right direction, and then I forget. I think one of the things I like in life, I think for a long period of time, I kept doing the same things. You know, it's sort of like plan A is not working, let's try plan A. And now I think sometimes it's the opposite. You know, it's like plan A is working, let's try plan B. And why I do that, I do not know. And it's like, I don't know why. I know that when something is good for me, I still do something which is bad for me. So I think that, yeah, absolutely, learning is an ongoing thing. And I think we can even digress. I think with certain kind of things which we have learned in life, they become worse when we get older. I think selfishness, for example, is quite a good example. I think that older people become quite stuck in their ways. They become, you know, we learn how to share, and then we find it more difficult again when we get older. I think it's difficult to keep contributing. You know, it's difficult to be non-stop giving. You know, I think we at times we have to take. You know, that those are those phrases, aren't they, from self-help book? You know, you can only give what you have and all that kind of stuff. So you need sometimes you need to reload. Sometimes you need to be a little bit selfish before you can be unselfish again.
Do you think we, the grown-ups, can make children better? Can teach them something?
Yeah. I absolutely. I think whether our educational system does it all the time is a different question. But we can definitely help our children. I think if it wasn't if it wasn't through education and you know, through learning, I think women would still be dragged back into the cave by their, you know, possible husband. I don't know what you would call a man like that, and things have changed. You know, I think we are, and that's part of it. I think that's part of a process. We learn sometimes through knowledge, sometimes through doing. But I think as adults we're there for our kids, aren't we? It's like how do they know that to cross a street is dangerous if I'm not there on the side, if I'm not yanking them back to sort of say this is not the right moment to cross. You know, I think yeah, absolutely. I think we also learn them a lot of bad things. You know, I think there's a lot of good things we teach them, but I think there's a lot of shit which we still do as adults. We also put onto them. I think all our prejudices very often go into our children. You know, I like the expression, you can take a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. And I think that's the same as with art. So you can tell something, but whether or not you know, somebody is gonna do something with that information, that's up to them. I think that's I can't force. You know, I think art can't force somebody to take something away. I think if you're very close-minded and you go and see something, you won't let it enter. If you're very open-minded and you want to learn and you want to see different things, you will. So I think art is about sharing. I think it's about sharing different ways of seeing, and I don't know. I as a child, but also as an adult, I get rich from seeing how other people see things. That's the treasure I think I get. So I guess we have to make that available, don't we? We have to just make available the possibility to take, rather than saying that life is just the way in which potentially parents see it. But children or us need to sort of see that there are different ways of seeing. Of course, in our Pinocchio, they're like skeletons, and I think it'll depend a little bit in whether the children, and I think that is also a question of teaching, have been taught to be frightened of these kind of things, or whether they look at that with the naivety children have. You know, that's their bones. That's it. They don't attach all these values to it, which potentially adults might. And so it depends a little bit on what of these values the children have been taught. And so if they've been taught that this is all scary and this is then maybe it would be good that their parents are there to sort of to let them know, no, that doesn't really. But I think if the in general, I think children have a different take on these kind of things. They sort of see more, I hope to sort of think more open, they sort of more playful. Yesterday somebody sort of said, you know, that was that a question of you know, trying to pervert children? It's like such a big word. It's like I think that perversion or whatever is already there, like you sort of say. I think there is Halloween. You know, video games. I think that I don't think that kids are not used to that kind of stuff. And I think we're the one who do the perversion. I mean, as adults, when we sort of frighten children about it. And I think we also, you know, when we sort of say that violence is good, or that we sort of say, you know, in with regards in capitalist terms, let's say that you can just take. That's you know, I think for a long period of time we were asked to respect people who get to the top and make a lot of money and are quite ruthless and all these kind of things. And I think we do that as adults, to sort of say, oh, don't care about so much about or black people are uncultured, or we do that. We give them this information, and I think that that's the same. That's the same here. I think it's a good thing to sort of, let children know that death is part of life, but that we have a choice within that. That to be like Pinocchio does, to be violent and to be nasty to the animal kingdom means that you're going to end up on your own. So it's and it's a good thing to learn. That life and death are part of life, but how we treat it is up to us. And Satori talks about, the fairy, or the girl with the blue hair lives in the house of the dead, and the ghost of the cricket. I think that is very much part of Satori's language, and I on a more intellectual level, I think that's I do also sort of see the bones a little bit like, that sounds maybe as Lego. The building blocks are only slightly different. So I like that about bones. They show that, you can make them in slightly different configurations. It's like if you look at the bones of a whale or a bird, or you can see how we are all related. You can see it. So I like that, and I think I like the fact that that makes it. I think that the difference also in the journey from selfish to not selfish is exactly to becoming self-serving and serving. Let's say is seeing that you are part of a whole rather than an individual, and I think that's good with bones. Bones show that that we are we're all not so different. It's all whether it's a chicken or whether it's a fox, or we really, if you sort of see it stripped down, and then I think at the end, any artistic journey as well as an intellectual journey or an educational journey they are journeys of the heart, and they're journeys of the soul, and they're journeys of the mind. They're not journeys of the body. I think at times there's too much, and I think in a strange kind of way that's what these bones do. It's not the body that we need to look at. It is what happens inside, and it's like I quite like that. That kids don't necessarily need to see that. That's but it's for me as my interaction with the work I do. I have fun with that. I have fun with that on an intellectual level, what that might mean for myself, and I hope that for kids it's more like they're building blocks. They're Lego. They're sort of they're fun. They're partly fun. It's that from a heap of bones we create all these different characters. I haven't spent too much time on that. It's there. I say it in the song, but I'm not constantly showing. Oh, now we are making from. But I think you can see it. The body of the fox is the body of a human being, but when he's bent down, you can see, that it's more of a fox. But when he's upright, he's more like a human being, and I think that's so the cricket has two lungs, so it's definitely we have played with that in how we made the animals. Yeah, I hope to sort of think that it's just to show the human aspect, that it is just part of growing up, is this journey we talked about from self-serving to serving. And I think that is at the heart of it. But that is through Pinocchio's choice, and not because Pinocchio was scared into becoming less selfish. I think he's confronted like for us. We are confronted like the same conversation we had earlier. We're confronted with the problem, and then sometimes we know that solution A is the right solution, but we do solution B until we've learned enough, and then we go like, okay, let's not go to solution B anymore, but let's stick with solution A. Or when we keep doing the same thing over and over again, that we go like, okay, maybe I just need a different solution and I need to go from solution A to solution B. And I think that's what we're trying to do here too. It is he has choice. And we just, and I think that's what he's learning. And then there is in life there is the, if you make certain decisions, if you run onto the street, there are going to be consequences. If you stick your hand into the fire, there will be consequences. If you kill a cricket, you will have. You won't have a friend to talk to.
The message of Pinocchio's story, be not selfish but help others, is very actual now in Europe during this refugee crisis.
Yeah.
And we have also here in Latvia we have this political dilemma: to help others or to save yourself.
Yeah. Absolutely, and I think in the end, absolutely, and I think I think that like what you sort of say, I think, and it's not just a children's problem. It's very much an adult's, and who will be, and who do we consider a man? Do we consider a man who looks after himself and saves himself, or do we look after a man who is not afraid to lose some of the things he has, but to help other people? Who is more of a man? It's not my job to answer. But I think that the question is definitely relevant now, as it always will be. What makes man man?